It is deeply unsettling to fathom how someone entrusted with the care and protection of children could harbor such a dark heart. For some, the evil within is masked by a facade of normalcy, allowing them to blend seamlessly into our society. They may appear as loving and attentive caretakers, but beneath this veneer lies a disturbing predilection for harm. Those that harm children are insidious in their methods, often seeking employment or volunteer positions that place them in direct contact with children. Like cunning chameleons, they seamlessly blend into their environments, gaining the trust of parents, co-workers, and their innocent victims. They present themselves as friendly, reliable, and caring individuals, which allows them to operate under the radar. Tragically, their heinous actions often go unnoticed until a child is seriously harmed, or in the worst cases, an innocent life is lost. By then, the damage has been done, leaving communities in shock and families devastated. The deceptive nature of these predators is what makes them so dangerous, as they exploit the very trust they work so hard to build. The prevalence of these dark-hearted individuals forces us to question the very fabric of our society, a society that, despite its technological and societal advancements, still harbors such primal and destructive tendencies. It's a stark reminder of the vigilance required to protect the innocent and the constant need to scrutinize those we trust with our most precious treasures. In today's video, we recount the heart-wrenching case of Fallon Fridley, a beautiful 2-year-old little girl whose life was tragically cut short by the hands that were supposed to care for her. We delve deep into the sinister mind of a killer in an attempt to uncover any signs or red flags that may have pointed to their evil intentions. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Are there lessons we can take away that may prevent this from happening to another child? Join us as we seek answers to these pressing questions. Honoring little Fallon's memory by respectfully sharing her story, raising awareness, and working towards preventing such heinous acts from claiming another innocent life and shattering another family's world. Before we talk about the details of baby Fallon's tragic case, let's get to know this precious baby girl. Fallon Lynn Fridley was born on September 27, 2018, to Kristen Fridley in Hollywood, Florida. Unfortunately, Fallon's father was not involved in her life. We'll talk a little more about this later in the video. Fallon entered the world as a big, beautiful 10-pound baby girl. From the moment she was born, Fallon captured hearts with her spirited presence.
Hey Fallon, come here. High five. High five. You're so funny. I love you. High five.
With the biggest, most enchanting blue eyes and golden blonde hair that sparkled in the sunlight. She was the epitome of childhood innocence and charm. Her tiny face lit up with the most adorable expressions, each one a delightful spark that filled the room with joy and laughter, capturing the hearts of everyone around her. She had an innate love for singing and dancing, often twirling around the living room, belting out her favorite tunes in her own little toddler speak, much to the delight of her family. Everywhere Fallon went, her trusty stuffed animal Lovey was by her side. Lovey was more than just a toy. It was a beloved friend that provided her with endless comfort and companionship. Fallon's heart burst at the seams for her cat, Mr. Butters, who would follow her around the house, creating a heartwarming scene of childhood wonder and furry friendship. Among her many cherished possessions was a doll named Anya, who frequently found herself being adorned with makeup as Fallon played pretend. Fallon's short but beautiful life was filled with so much love and unforgettable moments. But unfortunately, the darkness of evil and betrayal took her from this world in the most shocking and horrific way, leaving a trail of pain and sadness in the wake of a crime that shook the community and the world to its core. Sandy Springs, Georgia is a vibrant city nestled just north of Atlanta, known for its lush greenery and thriving community spirit. It was here in Sandy Springs during the 2020 shutdown, communities were forced to adapt a new, unfamiliar reality. Working families suddenly found themselves without childcare due to the closure of daycare centers and schools. Among these families was Fallon Fridley Case and her husband Cameron. Kristen, a dedicated veterinary tech, and Cameron, a landscaper, found themselves in a precarious situation as they juggled their employment outside the home and the need to care for Kristen's 2-year-old daughter, Fallon. Like many others, Kristen was caught off guard by the sudden changes and was forced to find alternative care for Fallon. In these trying times, Kristen turned to her friend of about 5 years, Kirsty Flood, for support. Kirsty, who had known Kristen for many years, was more than willing to step up and help. Kirsty had been there for Kristen during some of her darkest times as she struggled with addiction before welcoming Fallon into the world. It was during her time in rehab, Kristen met Fallon's father. It was a short-lived relationship and not a healthy one. Although the relationship wasn't perfect, Kristen was deeply hurt when Fallon's father wanted nothing to do with his daughter. But Kristen persevered, demonstrating unwavering resilience and strength. She embraced the journey of raising Fallon on her own, finding renewed purpose and joy in motherhood. Fallon's presence inspired Kristen to strive for the best life possible, and with time she met Cameron, hoping to give Fallon a loving and carefree childhood. Kirsty had 2 children herself, an 8-month-old son with her current live-in boyfriend Jeffrey Myers, and her 3-year-old daughter Harper from a previous relationship. She also had her fair share of struggles over the years. In 2010, she was arrested and charged with underage possession, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, criminal trespass, and 2 counts of battery. She was arrested again in 2012 for having possession of an anti-anxiety medication without a prescription. But it seemed Kirsty had turned her life around as well and had stayed clear of trouble for over 8 years. But that was all about to change, and unfortunately Kirsty's actions would turn unsuspecting Kristen's world completely upside down. After a few months of the arrangement, everything seemed to be going remarkably well. Harper and Fallon had become fast friends, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Fallon appeared genuinely happy and content during her time at Kirsty's house, so much so that on several occasions, she expressed a reluctance to leave when Kristen arrived to pick her up. December 9th, 2020 began as an ordinary day for Kristen. The morning unfolded with the usual routine, as Kristen headed off to work first, leaving Cameron to drop Fallon off at Kirsty's on his way to work. At around 1:30 p.m., Kristen received a text from Kirsty that diverged slightly from the norm. Kirsty asked if Fallon could spend the night at her house. This was a first in the months Kirsty had been watching Fallon, but Kristen perceived no reason for alarm. With Harper and Fallon being such close friends, the idea of a sleepover seemed harmless. Kristen agreed, believing it to be a simple overnight stay with people she trusted. After finishing her workday at 4:30 p.m., Kristen, like any mother would, decided to check in on Fallon. Her attempt to call Kirsty went unanswered, and a follow-up text was met with a brief reply. They were at the park, and her phone battery was running low. The response was short, but not entirely unusual, given the context. As the hours ticked by without further communication, Kristen's initial calm began to fray. Cameron, sensing the growing unease, suggested they visit Kirsty's to check on Fallon. Despite his concern, Kristen's trust in her friend led her to hesitate, hoping instead to hear back from Kirsty soon. Finally, at 6:30 p.m., a message arrived from Kirsty, assuring that everyone was home and safe. The reassurance brought temporary relief, but Kristen wanted to ease any worry by seeing Fallon and requested a FaceTime call. Kirsty agreed but asked for an hour to charge her phone. When the FaceTime call finally came in, Kristen found herself speaking to Fallon in a dimly lit room propped up on the bed. The sight of her daughter appeared normal, yet something intangible felt off. Fallon's unusual quietness was unsettling, and when Kristen handed the phone to Cameron so he could say hi to Fallon, the call abruptly ended. This set off alarm bells in Cameron, and he suggested they go pick up Fallon. Kristen chose to wait, trusting in the friendship and the bond they shared with Kirsty's family. In hindsight, this decision haunts her. Looking back, Kristen wishes she had acted on her instincts. Fast forward to 9:20 p.m., Kirsty called. "Chris, you need to come over now. Fallon, she fell. She hit her head on the slide and she's not moving." The air seemed to thicken around Kristen, her grip on the phone tightening as the world around her blurred into irrelevance. Suddenly, a new voice came on the line. A law enforcement officer explained that paramedics were already attending to Fallon, but they needed Kristen and Cameron to meet them at the hospital. Together they sped towards the hospital, the car's engine roaring in tandem with the frantic beating of Kristen's heart. She next found herself in a private room at Children's Hospital Atlanta. The room was nothing like the bustling, sterile halls she had hastily navigated. Instead, it was eerily quiet, a silence that only deepened her anxiety. Although she didn't remember calling her, she found her mother standing alongside her and Cameron. All she knew was Fallon was alive and doctors were running tests. She was desperate, pleading for someone to tell her what was happening to her daughter. Her demands to see Fallon were met with gentle refusals. Each time her frustration grew. She felt as if she were caught in a nightmare, one where she couldn't wake up and couldn't find her baby. What Kristen didn't know was that the doctors were harboring their own fears. Fallon's injuries raised troubling questions, and until they understood more, they were taking every precaution to protect her. In their efforts to shield Fallon from potential harm, they inadvertently left Kristen in the dark. She wanted nothing more than to hold her daughter, to see her with her own eyes, and the inexplicable barriers standing in her way only added to her torment. The silence in the room was interrupted again when the door flung open in haste by another physician. "What happened to your daughter?" Surely there was a mistake. Fallon had simply fallen off the slide. The notion that someone could suspect her of harming her own child was unthinkable, yet here it was, hanging in the sterile air of the hospital room like a dark cloud. The physician went on to say that most children don't survive the injuries Fallon had sustained, and that she would need a miracle. What seemed like hours later, a female doctor entered the room. She wanted to go over Fallon's injuries. As she started explaining the injuries and asking for Kristen's signature to authorize further treatment, a code blue was called. The doctor called for Kristen and her family to follow her to Fallon's room. As they rushed down the hallway with urgency, they came upon little Fallon, covered in tubes and wires. She was surrounded by doctors and nurses, one standing over her tiny body, giving her chest compressions. The atmosphere was charged, every second stretching into eternity, as the sterile walls of the hospital echoed with the frantic beeps of monitors and the hurried footsteps of medical staff. Kristen's heart pounded. Time seemed to slow as she watched the team of doctors work in a synchronized dance of life-saving measures. At 1:18 a.m. on December 10th, 2020, Fallon's hospital room fell eerily silent. The only sound was the steady hum of medical machines. Her little body had succumbed to her injuries. In that moment, Kristen lunged forward, clutching Fallon's small, lifeless form, her tears streaming as she begged her baby girl to awaken. A nurse gently guided Kristen to a chair and placed Fallon's lifeless body in her trembling arms. She sat there in the stillness, stroking Fallon's hair, her guttural sobs echoing like a haunting melody of grief through the empty corridors. It was the agony of a mother who had just lost her world. As Kristen grappled with her grief, a seething anger within her was creeping to the surface. She had to know who did this to her baby. After Fallon was rushed to the hospital, Kirsty Flood and her boyfriend Jeffrey Myers were brought into the police station for interviews. At first, Kirsty appeared composed and empathetic. Her voice was steady as she recounted the tale of how Fallon had slipped from the slide at the park. Her demeanor was one of genuine concern, her eyes wide with worry as she described the moments that supposedly led to Fallon's injuries. Yet the detectives remained unconvinced. The severity of Fallon's injuries simply didn't align with a fall from playground equipment, and Kirsty's account contained inconsistencies that set off alarm bells. As the investigation intensified and Kirsty found herself under the spotlight, her composure began to fray. She attempted to shift the focus away from herself, launching into a tirade about Kristen and Cameron. She painted herself as the more competent and caring mother, disparaging Kristen's past choices and struggles, particularly her history with addiction. Kirsty's words dripped with condescension as she attempted to deflect blame, hoping to cast doubt on Kristen's character instead. When backed into a corner, Kirsty would also shift blame onto the detectives themselves. She would become patronizing and rude.
My concern is you're the only one that was with them all day. And these injuries happen. And we're saying we have no idea how they happened.
Like, if I could, okay. If I could give you an answer right now that would just solve the problem, I would, but I don't have an answer for you. The only two things I could think of is falling on cement,
Which we didn't see happen.
which we didn't see happen. Grace, my pet,
Which we didn't see happen.
which we didn't see happen either.
Did you hear her cry out at all today?
I mean, I'll hear, Fallon is the most quiet thing you'll ever ask her mom. That kid doesn't cry.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's not even my kid, you would hear from miles away if someone's brushing her hair.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a big difference.
Gotcha. All right. Give me a minute.
Okay.
Boom.
Those right there, they bounce.
Mm-hmm.
There's a metal bar right there too. You ever thought about that?
Okay, did you see that happen?
Do you know that accidents happen all the time?
I do, because I have 4 kids.
Exactly my point. Then cut me some
And then I
slack.
also know that this injury doesn't happen just appear out of nowhere.
Exactly why my 2 kids are 100% healthy. Have you ever thought about that? You ever thought about that?
Yeah, I thought about it.
Okay. Then think about it a little bit harder.
But maybe you need to think about you're the only person with her, and she's injured like this.
I did not hurt that little girl.
What's that? You want to talk to her? Yeah, I was just kidding.
Why would I say that? What? Come on, man. Don't do this to me. Don't ruin my life.
I'm not ruining your life.
No, you're on the cusp.
I'm trying to figure out
am
what
a
happened with this
mother.
baby. I understand that.
No,
I'm trying to figure out what happened with this baby.
I did not do anything to that little girl. And you are not about to ruin my life over that.
I'm not ruining anyone's life.
I'm in the midst of getting my entire record cleared from 2000, back in the day, 2010.
Okay.
I have busted my ass in life to get to where I'm at right now.
Okay.
And I have helped her mother, and I've been there for her, and I've done all of this, and you're gonna sit here and you're gonna tell me, do you think I hurt this little girl?
I don't know what happened with this little girl. I just know she was with you, and now she's injured to the point where she might not make it.
After finding out Kirsty had a nanny cam set up in her living room, detectives asked her for the raw footage. They wanted the SD card. She was able to access footage from her phone and volunteered detectives clips from that day that showed Fallon acting like a normal, healthy 2-year-old. But fearing Kirsty was not showing them everything, detectives pressed to give them permission to access all the unedited data. What she didn't know is they were securing warrants for her home and her phone behind the scenes. But in the meantime, they were hoping for her cooperation. But Kirsty stood her ground as she insisted that they had already seen everything there was to see, although she was acutely aware of the damning evidence that lay hidden in those raw clips.
Because these injuries just didn't happen out of nowhere. These injuries happened somehow. You're the only person that was with her all day.
That's not even fair. You cannot pin that on me.
I'm not pinning anything on anyone.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what happened.
Wow. I have children, I have dogs, I have a whole life.
And I understand that.
No, I don't think you do.
I do.
She's about to take my car and my keys.
No, she's not taking your car.
Where is she going with my stuff?
She came to get the key to lock up the house.
Why?
Because we served a search warrant at your house.
For what?
Because it's a high possibility this child was injured at your home.
And you didn't find anything, did you?
I don't know. I'm not there.
Wow.
But you have to look at it. What if you were in my shoes?
I can't
what would
believe you right
think?
now. You really just flipped the table.
If
That's
you
what
were,
y'all do, don't you?
If you were in my shoes, what would you think?
I'm not under arrest.
Right now you're detained.
I'm not under arrest.
Right now you're detained.
Well, I'm about to call a lawyer then if you're going to play this game.
Okay, you're calling a lawyer?
You're not going to keep me here. I have children I have to go take care of. You understand
Right now
that?
you are detained.
I have children.
I understand that.
Where's Jeff?
He's over there. He's in the other room.
So, what are you saying?
I'm trying to figure out who hurt this child.
Neither of us hurt this child. Maybe you
How
should
did
go...
this Child get injured then?
I don't know how she just
was
got
with you
injured. You
all
just
day.
saw videos of her running around and fine. What else
And
do
I
you
get that that video
need?
doesn't show the whole other part of the house.
Why else? Okay, if she's so injured, why would she be running around like that? Have you ever thought about that? An acute injury? Don't you
So-
think she would be laying down?
So you tell me,
If she was hurt, wouldn't she be laying down?
what could have happened when you took her off screen?
So you think I took her off screen and then brought her back out to feed her? And everybody else was just running around fine? Does that make sense to you?
Crazy things have happened. I know what is going on in this child's body right now. And it doesn't just happen out of it.
When officers received the warrant for her phone and approached Kirsty to confiscate it, she tried to stall, stating she needed to write down phone numbers and information she had in her phone for upcoming appointments, etc. Detectives knew better, and to prevent her from tampering with any evidence contained in the phone, they were forced to grab it from her hand.
Are you actually on the phone with someone?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
What is this?
This is a search warrant.
For what?
We're going to seize your phone.
What?
Yep.
You can't. What?
Yep.
It's a valid search warrant, so
Valid
I'm the
search.
judge. So we need to take your phone.
So how
Here's
does...
the deal. I just called the doctor, and Fallon is dead. No lie. She's at the morgue right now.
Wow.
She's gone.
fall.
Her injuries were that bad that they couldn't save her.
Did you just hear that? So they're seizing my phone. So I guess, how long are you gonna have my phone for?
Probably as long as it takes for us to process it, which could be 24 hours.
Okay, so and then I come back here and get it?
Yeah,
We'll contact you to release it back to you.
because I have Jeffrey's number. I can call him and y'all can come back and get it then.
I know. All right, well, let me go ahead and read over this paperwork before I give them my phone.
Let you have your copy to keep.
Okay. All right, love you, bye. I actually have quite a few things I have to write down.
Well, here, let me, before you go.
I have
Listen, we're gonna
a
take this one.
psychologist appointment
We're
tomorrow.
going to give you these things back, but we're not gonna allow anything to be manipulated right now.
It's not gonna be
okay?
manipulated.
We're
It's
going
in
to
her
get
custody
back to you
now.
right now, okay?
Kirsty's in her custody right now.
I have a psychologist appointment tomorrow. Do you
Okay,
not
okay.
understand that?
We
I
do
do.
understand
Yeah,
that.
No,
so
you
we can
don't.
put you to this.
No,
so
you
we can
don't.
move
Right
on,
now,
okay?
our main
But I
priority is
am nurse, so-
investigating.
You just took it out of my phone, out of my hand.
I did,
Okay.
yes.
Search
You
one
have
now.
your phone number.
We
So,
Oh, aren't you lovely?
so, okay, we'll be right back with you, okay? So,
It's important to note between all the back and forth of this interview with police, Kirsty made a startling confession. She revealed to detectives that she would isolate herself behind her bedroom door for hours, leaving the children in her care unattended. On the surface, it appears it was a mere lapse in judgment. Yet experienced detectives know this could be a strategic move on Kirsty's part, a calculated confession to something less egregious than the horrific crime she's suspected of. Criminals often employ this tactic to divert attention from their more sinister acts, hoping that by admitting to a lesser wrongdoing, they can mislead investigators. However, seasoned detectives understand that such admissions can serve as the key to unlocking a suspect's full confession. As Kirsty's interview is taking place in one room, her boyfriend Jeffrey Myers also faced an intense interview in another room. He firmly denied witnessing any harm befall Fallon, fervently commending Kirsty's nurturing care of the children. However, some troubling details emerged. He recounted that Fallon had refused to eat that evening, and then the narrative took a darker turn as he described the desperate measures taken when Fallon became unresponsive. In a frantic bid to revive her, they plunged her into a cold bath, but their efforts were tragically in vain. He also admitted to leaving unresponsive Fallon alone for over 15 minutes as he and Kirsty stepped outside to smoke a cigarette, plotting their next moves prior to calling 911. Throughout those harrowing moments, Fallon was locked in a desperate struggle for survival. Yet the very aid that could have saved her was coldly withheld, sacrificed at the altar of self-preservation by Kirsty and Jeff, who feared the consequences of their own involvement. As Fallon's life faded, Kirsty and Jeff were entangled in a web of deceit, strategizing and conspiring to shield Kirsty from blame. All the while, Jeffrey remained a silent spectator, fully aware Kirsty was a monster, yet he chose inaction over protecting the children.
Yeah, you having fun? Yeah. Is it fun? Yeah. Whee!
Kirsty and Jeff were eventually allowed to leave the police station. By now it was the next day, December 10th. Fallon had tragically succumbed to her injuries. Kirsty and Jeff had been made aware of her death soon after detectives received the call from the hospital. Yet as the gravity of the situation sank in, Kirsty's mind remained disturbingly fixated on her own inconvenience. The loss of her phone seemed to take precedence over the horrific loss of an innocent 2-year-old who had been in her care. Her callousness and detachment was infuriating for detectives, who I'm sure wish they could put her behind bars that night. But they had to wait. They had to gather every piece of evidence possible to ensure Kirsty had no wiggle room. Fallon was depending on them. They may not have been able to save her life, but one thing they could do is make sure she receives the justice she deserves.
It's always best to match your tea and take. Look at all the colors. What tea time. Press my heart button to make a new color tea.
Detectives were eventually able to get the raw footage from Christy's nanny cam. What they found was something they could never unsee. I'm sure the effects of the disturbing footage will haunt them for years to come. Kirsty's insidious actions were all right there, captured on video. What Kirsty inflicted on little Fallon was unthinkable. It was clear to detectives how she received her life-ending injuries, and it wasn't from a slide at the playground. Kirsty had treated Fallon as if she was a rag doll. She committed unspeakable acts on this innocent baby. The nanny cam footage was haunting and something no one should have to see. And as if that wasn't enough, they found incriminating searches on Kirsty's phone as well. I've had to remove some of the words she used in her searches due to YouTube's guidelines, but I'm sure you'll get the point. She searched, what type of people enjoy harming other people's children? And what does it mean to have a sudden urge to harm a child that's not yours? Detectives now knew exactly what happened to Fallon and who was behind it. Now they needed to make their arrest. Kirsty was brought back into the police station under the guise of picking up her phone, and you better believe she rushed down to pick it up. After some small talk with detectives, she was arrested and charged with first-degree murder in Fallon's death, along with tampering with evidence and cruelty to children. As you'd expect, in Kirsty's self-entitled fashion, she didn't make the arrest easy.
All right, Kirsty, just swing over here this way. Just move your legs out this way.
Why?
Because I gotta put this on you. Okay?
Why?
Because.
I have not. No. You're not about to jam me up right now without. No. I never gave you any information about my lawyer. So you can't detain me.
Yeah, we can. You're under arrest.
Yeah,
For what?
You're under arrest.
For what? For what? For what?
Bring it in.
Show you the ones. You're under arrest.
For what?
I'm gonna show you the ones in a minute. Once we get you secured.
I need my phone and my lawyer. Right now.
You'll have that opportunity.
Right now. That's why I came here, was for my phone. Y'all actually just entrapped me, is what you just did.
That's actually not called entrapment.
That is entrapment, because Officer Myers just said I would not be getting locked up the minute I walk in here to get my phone. That's entrapment. I know my laws.
Well, you obviously don't.
That's entrapment. He literally just said he would not be locking me up. That's what he just said. And my children are at home.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're with defects with your mom. They're not with you.
Excuse me, you're not about to pull my leg like that. You need to chill. Okay? Where is Jeff? In my car and everything else that I own is outside.
Still outside.
Where's he?
Jeff's in the lobby.
Does he know that you're arresting me?
Not yet. He'll know here in a minute.
About a month later, on January 6, 2021, Kirsty's boyfriend Jeffrey Myers was also arrested and eventually charged with second-degree murder in Fallon's death. During their investigation, detectives found that Jeffrey witnessed Kirsty inflicting deadly harm to Fallon and did nothing. According to Fallon's mother, Kristen, investigators viewed months of footage from Kirsty's nanny cam and found even more horrifying footage. Kirsty had also been harming her own daughter, Harper, and shockingly, Harper witnessed the horrifying acts that led to Fallon's death. I can't even begin to fathom the depths of trauma that witnessing her own mother commit such a violent act would inflict upon this innocent 3-year-old. The horror of that moment, seared into her young mind, is a shadow she will carry with her for the rest of her life. This little girl was trapped in a nightmare, torn between the innate love a child has for her mother and the confusion of being too young to comprehend why the person who should protect her is the one causing her pain. Her heart, too tender to understand, must also grapple with the heart-wrenching loss of her mother, now absent and imprisoned. My heart shatters for little Harper, who is forced to navigate a world of betrayal and loss far too soon. But Kirsty's trail of destruction doesn't end there. Her infant son had allegedly been left in his walker upwards of 6 hours a day. Remember when she admitted she would leave the children unattended while she spent time in her bedroom with the door shut? Well, allegedly, when she did this, it wouldn't be for an hour or two. It would be for most of the day. Kirsty pled guilty to first-degree murder in March of 2024 and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jeffrey Myers pled guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. I'm glad Fallon's mother was spared having to sit through 2 trials, reliving her worst nightmare. After Kirsty was arrested, DCFS sent her 3-year-old daughter Harper to the nearest known relative, which happened to be her mother Karen. Harper's biological father Avery was never contacted, and upon finding out the trauma his daughter had been through, he petitioned the court for custody of Harper. During this time, Kirsty was calling from jail, harassing Avery and his family, her harassing behavior forcing them to stop taking her calls. Kirsty couldn't have that, so she convinced her mother to not allow Harper any communication with her father Avery unless he agreed to taking her calls again. These 2 unhinged women even put Harper in the middle, having her ask Avery why he wouldn't talk to her mommy. But Kirsty and Karen's antics did not stop Avery's fight for Harper. It took a couple of years, but he was finally able to gain custody of her and get her the help she so desperately needed. She's now living with her father and seems to be healing and thriving. In another shocking twist to this case, Kirsty's mother Karen was eventually arrested for influencing a witness. According to law enforcement, she engaged Harper in misleading conduct towards the Sandy Springs Police Department to prevent her from communicating information relating to the homicide of Fallon. So basically, she was manipulating Harper to lie to police about what she saw her mother do to Fallon. What is wrong with this woman? As if Harper hadn't already endured enough, she's now being manipulated by her own grandmother to lie to police? I can definitely see where Kirsty's moral compass comes from. Fallon's mother, Kristen, eventually divorced her husband at the time, Cameron Gant, and went on to have a son she named Asher. And as of the date of this video's release, she is currently engaged to a man named Bo Glover. But unfortunately, Kristen had another horrendous heartbreak to endure. As if losing Fallon wasn't enough, in August of this year, 2024, she lost another daughter. On August 23rd, she gave birth to Rhea Jean Glover, weighing in at 1 pound 7 ounces. Little Rhea fought so hard, but sadly, she passed away on August 27th, only 4 days later. Kristen thanked those who came out to Rhea's celebration of life in a Facebook post. Here are some excerpts from that post. I am not okay, but I think the fact that I'm able to admit this is a good thing. Not only did I lose my infant daughter, but this has triggered my PTSD symptoms from losing Fallon. 2 beautiful daughters, 2 loved daughters, 2 wanted daughters. We feel robbed. I feel robbed for a second time. We had a venue set up for her baby shower. We had a baby registry. Now nothing. My womb is empty, yet I'm still having postpartum symptoms. My hormones are all over the place, and I do not have my baby. It feels unnatural. My body and my brain are confused. This world is a tapestry woven with threads of heartache, loss, and unthinkable pain. As we navigate the crowded city streets or mindlessly scroll through social media, we are blind to the silent battles each person is fighting. Every face masks a story of struggle and sorrow, and we remain strangers to the tears they shed when the world isn't watching. I implore each one of us to become beacons of love and kindness, for those are rare and powerful antidotes to the wounds that time alone cannot heal. The healing power of love is not merely for those who receive it, but it also uplifts those who selflessly give it. Covering these cases of tragedy and betrayal is very emotionally challenging for me. I often find myself overwhelmed with helplessness, questioning what impact I can make. Yet within the pain, there are lessons, profound truths that might prevent another innocent life from being shattered. In Fallon's case, Kristen's trust was violently shattered by someone she believed to be a friend, someone she welcomed into her life. The loss of her daughter was not just a personal tragedy, but a brutal act of evil. Kristen's heart now bears the weight of unimaginable grief and betrayal. How could she have foreseen such deceit? As parents, we are reminded of the chilling reality that we must remain ever vigilant about whom we allow into our children's lives. Kristen is blameless, for no fault of hers led to this nightmare, but her story stands as a grim reminder that monsters can disguise themselves in the most convincing masks. This case is terrifying for several reasons, not least because it challenges our most fundamental assumptions about motherhood and friendship. The notion that a woman and a mother could commit such a heinous crime against children shatters our deeply ingrained belief in maternal instinct as a protective force. Typically, we trust women, especially mothers, around children, viewing them as natural guardians. Yet this case forces us to confront the unsettling truth that evil can lurk where we least expect it. Kirsty was not only a mother, but also Kristen's best friend, making the betrayal all the more shocking. Her actions inflicted unimaginable pain on both Fallon and Kristen, as well as her own children. Her past arrests for violent behavior offer a glimpse into her capacity for harm, but few could have foreseen the depths of what she was capable of. This case leaves us grappling with unanswered questions. How can we recognize the warning signs in women who might harbor similar tendencies? What measures can we take to protect other children from such a monster? It serves as a reminder that evil often cloaks itself in the guise of the familiar, making it all the more insidious and terrifying. While Kirsty's incarceration ensures she can no longer hurt others, the scars she left will linger, and the quest for true justice remains painfully elusive. Kristen, if you ever see this video, please know that my thoughts are with you. I cannot even begin to fathom the depths of sorrow and heartache you have been forced to endure over these last 4 years. I hope you find solace in the knowledge that your precious baby girls are now flying with the angels, embracing you with their love from above. May you feel their tender presence surrounding you, hear their sweet whispers in the rustling leaves, and sense their eternal love in the gentle caress of a breeze. Although the reasons for such immense pain remain beyond our understanding, please know that your heart's anguish is felt deeply, and I am profoundly sorry for your loss, sending you all the love and hope in the world, and wishing for your healing and peace. The opposite of violence, evil, and hate is love, a love that little Fallon embodied with a purity so profound it could light up the darkest of nights. She was an innocent, gentle soul, a vibrant little girl who deserved the chance to dance through life filled with laughter and dreams, untainted by cruelty. Her absence is a reminder of our collective loss, a reminder that we cannot bring her back to wrap her in the warmth of her mother's arms, but we can honor her memory by sprinkling kindness, love, and light into the pervasive darkness. We can strive to counterbalance the evil that lurks around us in hopes of creating a world where innocence is preserved. I can scarcely fathom the depth of anguish that Kristen is forced to endure, a pain so consuming it threatens to break her spirit. But I fervently hope that those of us who have come to love little Fallon, who choose to spread love and kindness in her name, might offer Kristen a sliver of solace amidst her heartache, a reminder that Fallon's light continues to shine through the love we share in her honor. Let us choose kindness. It spreads like wildfire, and you never know the impact one small act of kindness might have on a person who is struggling. Think of Fallon and let her memory inspire you to smile and to spread love. Remember the beautiful light she brought to the world, and let's keep her light shining. Rest in love, sweet Fallon. You will never be forgotten.